We're going to begin Chapter 4 today, so let's get going. This is an introduction to the tissues of the human body. Tissues are basically structures with discrete structural and functional properties. Tissues in combination form organs such as the heart or liver, and then the organs can be grouped into the 11 body systems. There are 4 major types of tissues in the human body. 1. Epithelial tissue, 2. Connective tissue, 3. Muscle tissue, and 4. Neural tissue. Epithelial tissue, an example, is the skin. Basically, epithelial tissue covers exposed surfaces, lines internal passageways, and forms glands. That's what we're going to talk about today. Connective tissue, an example, would be the ligaments, and it fills the internal spaces, it supports other tissues, and it transports materials and stores energy. Muscle tissue, an example, would be the biceps. It's specialized for contraction, and there's 3 types of muscle tissue: skeletal muscle, cardiac or heart muscle, and then smooth muscle, walls of the hollow organs. There's neural tissue, an example would be the neuron, and this tissue carries electrical signals from one part of the body to the other. Let's get into the epithelial tissue. The functions of the epithelial tissue include 1. Providing physical protection, 2. Controlling permeability, 3. Providing sensation, and 4. Producing specialized secretions. It's called glandular epithelial. Epithelial tissue is based on shape and layers. The 3 basic shapes of epithelial tissue are squamous epithelia, which is thin and flat, cuboidal epithelia, which is square-shaped, and columnar epithelia, which is tall, slender rectangles. Those are the 3 basic shapes. The layers is the second form of classification, and it's based on either simple epithelium, which is a single layer of cells, or stratified epithelium, which is several layers of cells. Now we combine these together. If you look here in this image, you can see simple squamous, 1 layer of squamous cells, simple cuboidal, 1 layer of cuboidal cells, cube-shaped, and simple columnar, 1 layer of rectangular shaped cells. In this image, we're able to see stratified. We have stratified squamous, which again is multiple layers of squamous cells, stratified cuboidal, which are multiple layers of cube-shaped cells, and stratified columnar, which are multiple layers of rectangular-shaped cells. Let's take a look at squamous epithelia. With simple squamous epithelium, the function is absorption and diffusion. With mesothelium, this layer lines body cavities, and then endothelium, this layer lines heart and blood vessels. Here's a picture of the actual images and the location of the types of tissue. Now let's move on to stratified squamous epithelium. That protects against attacks. It has keratin protein to add strength and water resistance. There's cuboidal epithelium, and there's simple cuboidal epithelium, and again, that's secretion and absorption, and then stratified cuboidal epithelia, and that includes the mammary ducts. This is an image showing you the simple columnar epithelia, and this image shows you the stratified columnar epithelia. Now let's talk about the glandular secretions and types. We have the merocrine secretion. They're produced in the Golgi apparatus. They're released by the vesicles, exocytosis, and an example of this would be the sweat glands. So merocrine secretion are sweat glands. Next are the apocrine secretion, and that example would be the mammary glands and breast milk. The halocrine secretions include the sebaceous glands, and those are the oil glands in the skin. This is an image showing you each of the glandular secretions and their locations. Finally, we have the serous glands, and that's the watery secretions, and the example would be a drippy nose. The mucus secretions, and that secretes mucins, and then the mixed exocrine glands, which is both the serous and the mucus. Now let's move on to the connective tissue. Connective tissue are specialized cells with a solid extracellular protein fibers that form a ground substance or matrix. The basic functions of connective tissue is it establishes a structural framework for the body, it transports fluids and dissolved materials, it protects delicate organs, it's including supporting, surrounding, and interconnecting other types of tissues. It stores energy reserves, especially in the form of triglycerides, and it defends the body from invading microorganisms. There are three types of classification in connective tissue. There's connective tissue proper, that connects and protects. There's fluid connective tissue, that transports, and then there's supporting connective tissue, and that's structural strength. Let's talk about the connective tissue proper. There's loose connective tissue, and an example of that would be fat or adipose tissue. Dense connective tissue, on the other hand, has more fibers, and an example of that would be tendons. These are the types of cells that are prominent in connective tissue proper. Fibroblast is the most abundant cell type. Fibrocytes is the second most abundant cell type. These are both found in connective tissue proper. Then we have adipocytes, and they're fat cells, and they store energy. Mesenchymal cells are stem cells that respond to energy, to injury or infection. Macrophages are large amoeba-like cells of the immune system. They eat pathogens and damaged cells. Mast cells stimulate inflammation after injury or infection. They release histamine and heparin. And lymphocytes are specialized immune cells in the lymphatic system. The microphages are phagocytic blood cells, and they respond to signals from the macrophages and mast cells. And then melanocytes synthesize and store the brown pigment in melanin. Let's continue. Collagen fibers are found in tendons and ligaments. Reticular fibers form the sheaths around organs. And then elastic fibers are the elastic ligaments of the vertebrae. Fluid connective tissue includes the blood. The cardiovascular system has arteries, capillaries, and veins, and it moves the blood through that system. And then the lymphatic system, or lymphoid system, includes the lymphatic vessels, or the lymph, which moves through that system. Now we come to supporting connective tissue. Supported connective tissue supports soft tissues and body weight. It includes cartilage and bones. Cartilage is a gel-type ground substance. It's used for shock absorption and protection. Bone is calcified. It's made from rigid calcium salts and minerals, and it's for weight support. Now, there are types of cartilage. Let's talk about them. Hyaline cartilage is stiff, flexible. It reduces friction between bones. That includes the joints, the rib tips, the sternum, and the trachea. Elastic cartilage is supportive but bends easily. This is found in the ear and the epiglottis. And then fibrocartilage is fibrous cartilage. It does limit movement. It prevents bone-to-bone contact, and it includes the knee joints, the knee meniscus pads, and the vertebral column. The next slides show you the location and the function of hyaline cartilage, elastic cartilage, and fibrocartilage.